Born in Los Angeles on March 8, 1945, a boy named George Michael Dolenz Jr. would eventually become a key figure in one of the most recognizable pop rock groups of the 1960s and a beloved icon of television history. Long before he was simply Micky Dolenz to millions of fans, he inhabited a childhood marked by Hollywood influences, early screen appearances, and a budding passion for music that led to global stardom. His father, George Dolenz, and his mother, Janelle Johnson, were both active in film, taking part in a post-World War II entertainment industry that pulsed with possibilities. Growing up in the City of Angels meant that make-believe wasn't just a distant fantasy. It took physical shape in studios, backlots, and the swirl of parties frequented by directors, actors, and producers. Micky's father, in particular, enjoyed a notable run in Hollywood, signing with RKO when the legendary Howard Hughes reigned at the studio and even taking on the role of Edmond Dantes in a 1956 British television adaptation of The Count of Monte Cristo. The Dolenz family's involvement in the entertainment world set the stage for young George Michael's earliest ventures, although no one could have predicted just how far he would go. In 1956, the boy who would become Micky Dolenz landed his first big part. That year, a children's adventure TV series called Circus Boy premiered, capturing youthful imaginations with its portrayal of life on the road in a traveling circus at the dawn of the 20th century. It's almost quaint to imagine now. Milk bottle lights strung across circus tents, flamboyant costumes, trained elephants, and cotton candy stands. But for audiences of the era, it was a colorful escape from everyday life. Under the screen name Micky Braddock, the young Dolenz portrayed a 12-year-old orphan called Corky, who traveled with Big Tim Champion Circus. Armed with a water bucket and a big heart, Corky devoted himself to looking after both the human performers and his beloved elephant, Bimbo. This show, which ran for 2 years, gave Micky his earliest taste of fame. Although at the time, he was more focused on the immediate joys of performance rather than any adult notion of celebrity. The breezy innocence of Circus Boy presaged the buoyant energy he would later bring to other roles. Even during this period of childhood stardom, Micky's interest in music was emerging, almost like an echo heard through the big top hustle and bustle. His father had introduced him to the guitar, specifically the Spanish variety, and that initial spark fueled a deeper exploration of music that ranged from folk to early rock. Micky idolized performers such as Bob Dylan and the Kingston Trio before the raucous edge of rock and roll beckoned him further. Once Circus Boy came to its final curtain, Micky focused on schooling, with his parents making sure that he didn't let Hollywood overshadow his education. His TV appearances became less frequent as he dedicated himself to a slice of normal life. He attended Ulysses S. Grant High School in Valley Glen, Los Angeles, graduating in 1962, then set his sights on architecture as a field of study at Valley College in the San Fernando Valley. He also spent some time at Los Angeles Technical Institute, navigating lecture halls and design projects. Yet, it wasn't long before his creative soul tugged him back to the performing arts. While enrolled in architecture courses, he played in local bands, Micky and the One-Nighters as well as the Missing Links, relishing the chance to entertain small crowds. Though he studied structural forms and the interplay of lines in drafting rooms, his true calling seemed to unfold whenever he took a stage or sang into a microphone. In 1964, he ventured back to television in a guest role on Mr. Novak, a high school drama starring James Franciscus. The episode, titled Born of Kings and Angels, presented him as Ed, a part that was small but symbolic of his transition from child star to teen performer. Another cameo followed in 1965, A Turn on Peyton Place, a popular, somewhat melodramatic TV serial. Though uncredited, Micky portrayed one of the rebellious teenagers hassling Norman Harrington. These acting gigs hinted that he still had a foothold in Hollywood, even if he wasn't leading a show as he had during the Circus Boy era. But major change was on the horizon, and destiny would knock in a highly unexpected manner. That same year, a new TV production was in development, The Monkees. Inspired in part by the comedic antics of the Beatles in their movie A Hard Day's Night, The Monkees was envisioned as a weekly sitcom about four goofball musicians trying to make it big. The show was to blend scripted comedy, chase sequences, and imaginative comedic scenarios with catchy pop rock tunes, an offbeat approach that executives hoped would resonate with America's youth. It was, in short, an attempt to build a fictional band that could cross over from TV into a genuine music phenomenon. Producers quickly needed four distinct personalities to fill the roles. Micky auditioned, reading for a part that would place him alongside three other mostly unknown performers, Davy Jones, Peter Tork, and Michael Nesmith. The comedic spark in Micky's audition was obvious, and his background in show business made him comfortable in front of cameras. He was cast immediately, and on September 12, 1966, The Monkees premiered on television, catapulting him into a level of pop stardom few could have predicted. Interestingly, though Micky was an experienced guitarist, the show insisted he appear as the band's drummer. TV audiences saw him perch behind a drum kit, hammering out rhythms with a seemingly effortless grin on his face. That grin hid the fact that he was essentially learning the instrument on the fly, juggling drum lessons, comedic lines, and the demands of filming. Even more challenging, he had a leg ailment called Perthes' disease, which left his right leg weaker than his left, forcing him to adopt a drum technique that reversed the usual lead. He joked about it later, calling himself half right, half left, but it couldn't have been an easy adaptation. Despite the comedic premise of The Monkees, the musical side of the project was no joke. The producers teamed up with some of the top pop songwriters of the day, including Tommy Boyce, Bobby Hart, and even Neil Diamond, to create infectious singles for the band to record. Micky's warm, powerful voice soared on Last Train to Clarksville, tracked on July 25, 1966, and released just in time to coincide with the show's debut. On November 5, 1966, the tune hit the top of the Billboard Hot 100. Far from being a novelty, it became a genuine hit that placed the Monkees at the center of the pop culture storm. A similarly explosive success soon followed with I'm a Believer, penned by Neil Diamond, and featuring Micky's vocals once again. Released at the end of 1966, it also reached number one on the Billboard Hot 100, reinforcing the idea that the Monkees could deliver real chart-topping songs. Before Micky knew it, he was a household name, recognized everywhere by hordes of screaming fans. The tremendous popularity of the Monkees sitcom and their records ignited a phenomenon, albeit one that provoked a bit of controversy. The band members initially had minimal control over their recordings. Their producers handled instrumentation in the studio, with the four guys mostly providing vocals. Critics accused them of being manufactured, but that criticism didn't deter fans. In time, Micky, Mike, Peter, and Davy fought hard for more musical autonomy, contributing more significantly to their albums as they went along. And though the Monkees ultimately only ran for 2 TV seasons, wrapping up in 1968, the band's legacy continued to echo well into the 1970s, 1980s, and beyond. For Micky Dolenz, These whirlwind years as a monkey led to remarkable encounters and life-altering events. He traveled extensively, met music legends, and got a real taste of the mania that can attach itself to pop groups. Yet real life went on behind the scenes. He was also maturing as a person, navigating relationships, and eventually becoming a father. His personal life, in fact, remains rich with stories that unfold almost in parallel to his career. Micky married 3 times and had 4 daughters, each relationship weaving its way into the complicated tapestry of his life. The first chapter of marriage began when the Monkees visited the United Kingdom in 1967. There, Micky met Samantha Just, a British model and television host who was a fixture on the music show Top of the Pops. Sparks flew, and on July 12, 1968, Micky and Samantha wed in the relaxed environs of Laurel Canyon in California. The Laurel Canyon area was famously a nexus for the era's greatest musicians, the Byrds, Joni Mitchell, Frank Zappa, so the wedding took place in a sort of bohemian swirl that fit Micky's free-spirited personality. Their daughter, Micky Dolenz, arrived on January 8, 1969, in Burbank, California, later carving out her own path in entertainment. Still, the marriage wouldn't endure permanently. Micky and Samantha divorced in 1975. Years later, on February 5, 2014, Samantha died after suffering a stroke, leaving a legacy connected to both British television and the vibrant swirl of 1960s pop culture. In 1977, Micky embarked on another marital adventure, this time with a British-born woman named Trina Dow. They had 3 daughters together: Charlotte Janelle, born in 1981, Emily Claire, born in 1983, and Georgia Rose, born in 1984. It was a time of relative normalcy for Micky, who by then had explored directing, voiceover roles, and other creative pursuits following the Monkees' dissolution as an active TV property. But that too came to a close when Micky and Trina divorced in 1991. Trina Dow, later Trina Dolenz, refocused her life's work to become a couples therapist, carrying the Dolenz name even after their split. Eventually, Micky found marital happiness a 3rd time. On September 20th, 2002, in Calabasas, California, he wed Donna Quinter in a private outdoor ceremony. By then, his life had taken on a calmer pace. He was no longer the teen idol bounding around comedic sets, nor was he caught up in the hustle of 1960s pop mania. Instead, he seemed content to enjoy a balanced existence, with sporadic appearances in reunion tours or Monkees nostalgia events, all while leaning on Donna for support and companionship. What distinguishes Micky Dolenz's journey is how consistently he managed to bridge different spheres: child actor, teen star, comedic performer, musician, and eventually director, DJ, and radio personality. Each role that he occupied felt partly shaped by those early days as Corky the Circus Boy, the child star who experienced the applause of live sets at an age when others were still struggling to pass spelling tests. This grounding in show business from the time he was small clearly gave him the resilience to bounce between industries. Consider how swiftly he pivoted from playing a happy-go-lucky orphan in a traveling circus to fronting a chart-topping pop group. The comedic aspect of the Monkees didn't sideline his genuine musical involvement. He spent hours behind a drum kit, overcame physical difficulties to learn an unconventional style, and used his skill set to become a functional studio drummer. Even if the producers insisted on session musicians early on, by the band's later years, Micky was more than capable of handling percussion duties and lending that distinctly expressive voice to the group's records. And that voice truly set him apart. Whether belting out Pleasant Valley Sunday, harmonizing with Peter Tork, or exchanging vocals with Davy Jones, Micky's tone always soared in a way that carried a certain warmth and pop flair. That skill may have come from his father's side. George Dolenz had an evident ease in front of the camera and a knack for performance. Micky harnessed a similar confidence, but he poured it directly into music, always with that signature comedic twinkle that reminded fans, I might be serious about singing, but I'm still having a good time up here. When the mania of the 1960s eventually receded, Micky found other ways to keep the creative energy flowing. He popped up in guest spots on shows like Adam 12 and worked on cartoon voiceovers. Everything from The Funky Phantom to The Scooby-Doo Show, tapping into a comedic timing that fit the realm of animated hijinks perfectly. For a while, he even immersed himself in British television productions, directing a few small projects while living in the UK. In each new environment, he seemed to adapt easily, that sense of showmanship never failing him. One thread that runs throughout Micky's story is the tension between quiet family life and the push and pull of public adoration. He experienced it as a child actor with cameras swirling, then again as a teen idol in the Monkees, chased by fans and paparazzi. Later, as a grown man and father, he navigated the everyday business of raising children in the shadow of a name known worldwide. Meanwhile, he also wrestled with an internal sense of identity. Was he primarily an actor, a singer, a musician? The truth is that each facet coexisted, shaped by the whimsy and unpredictability of the entertainment world. Curiously, the comedic slant of the Monkees overshadowed how musically innovative they could be. Micky and the rest of the group eventually took greater control of their recordings, leading to albums like Headquarters, 1967, and Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, and Jones Lendolis, also 1967. By then, Micky was drumming on more tracks, showcasing original compositions, and even dabbling in more experimental sounds that mirrored the era's shift towards psychedelic rock. The band that so many wrote off as manufactured had become a legitimate musical entity that critics in later decades reappraised more kindly. This reappraisal also changed how Micky was seen, not just as a comedic frontman, but as a talented vocalist and multi-instrumentalist, with the wit of a seasoned entertainer. Still, after 58 episodes, the Monkees ended in 1968. The band's heyday in terms of mainstream attention started to ebb. The group attempted a heady, surrealistic movie called Head, co-written with Jack Nicholson, which baffled their younger fans and did little for box office success, although it later earned a cult following. Each of the four members drifted in different directions. Mike Nesmith diving into country rock, Peter Tork pursuing solo work, Davy Jones dabbling in stage musicals, and Micky exploring production, acting, and directing. Over the years, they sometimes reunited for concerts or special appearances, each time reigniting the nostalgic spark among fans who had grown up wanting to be part of that comedic rock band's escapades. Being father to 4 daughters, he experienced the universal joys and challenges of parenting, a stark contrast to the glamorous or frenetic life on the road. Amy, his eldest, followed his path in film and television, finding some measure of success and forging her own identity. Meanwhile, Charlotte, Emily, and Georgia, born during his second marriage, grew up in a family where Dad was frequently recognized as that lovable monkey with the wide grin and curly hair. Through each marriage, Micky's day-to-day existence changed. The transitions weren't always easy, and divorces are seldom free of emotional cost, but he approached these life changes with a willingness to adapt, perhaps honed from that same childhood flexibility that let him shift effortlessly between circus sets, TV roles, and education. By 2002, he settled into what appears to be his most enduring marriage with Donna Quinter. The ceremony was private, far removed from the headline-chasing reality of the 1960s. It signaled that Micky had found a better balance, stepping away from the frenetic demands of the spotlight. Even so, he never completely disappeared from the public eye. Over the decades, he's participated in Monkees reunion tours, where devoted audiences belt out "I'm a Believer" and "Last Train to Clarksville" with unabashed nostalgia. The reaction at these shows is testament to the iconic status he and his bandmates hold, thousands of fans singing along, many of whom weren't even alive in 1967. In essence, Micky's life is a time capsule of American pop culture transitions, from the black and white innocence of a mid-1950s children's show to the neon burst of the 1960s psychedelic revolution. At the same time, it's the story of a man who had to keep redefining himself. He was a child star with a supporting elephant, then a comedic rocker riding the crest of a new youth culture. He was also a father, a husband, a traveler, a director, and above all else, a survivor of an industry prone to chewing people up and spitting them out. Micky Dolenz's private life has endured heartbreak and loss. His first wife, Samantha Giusti, passed away in 2014 at 69, marking a moment of reflection for him and their daughter, Amy. The intangible bond formed during a heady time in pop culture history came full circle, reminding him that fame is fleeting and relationships are what truly endure. Over the years, each professional success and personal transition has shaped him into someone who can look back fondly while still moving forward in new directions. As the years have rolled on, the Monkees have had multiple resurgences, from reunion concerts to celebratory album releases. Through it all, Micky Dolenz frequently remains the public face, especially following the passing of Davy Jones in 2012, Peter Tork in 2019, and Michael Nesmith in 2018-2021. He stands as the last surviving member of the original quartet, a poignant reality that underscores just how pivotal his role is in preserving the group's memory. Fans, both old and new, look to him as the voice that shaped so many of their favorite songs. If you see him at a recent show, he'll likely address the audience with the same unguarded warmth he displayed in 1966, speaking candidly about memories, jokes, and the songs that changed his life. Like that adventurous orphan Corky who once roamed the circus with an elephant in tow, Micky never let life's unpredictability slow him down. From tackling left-footed drumming to balancing families, from comedic bits on TV to heartfelt ballads on stage, he's shown a remarkable capacity to adapt, delight, and carry on. He's never lost the sense of fun that guided him as a child star, and fans appreciate that authenticity. They see it in his interviews, where he can recount 1960s anecdotes without a trace of bitterness, or in the way he can still belt out "I'm not your stepping stone" with as much verve as he did in the group's heyday. Now, having navigated 3 marriages, fathered 4 daughters, and explored an impressive range of creative outlets, Micky Dolenz stands as an emblem of both pop's ephemeral nature and its capacity to evolve with the artist. He's reached an age where reflection seems natural, yet he's not simply resting on accolades. The industry might have changed drastically from the days when the Monkees could dominate the charts, with singles penned by top-flight songwriters. But his brand of humor and heartfelt performance remains relevant. Fans might still greet him with tears in their eyes, grateful for songs that shaped their youth, or with second-generation devotees who know the band through parents' vinyl records. Through it all, Micky welcomes them like an old friend, spinning stories about being behind that drum kit, playing footsie with chord changes, or how it felt to see a single rocket up the charts, back when the charts defined the cultural pulse. Few performers can boast a professional arc that begins at age 11 and remains vibrant well into later life. Micky's unwavering longevity says a lot about what can happen when passion and adaptability merge, especially in a field as fickle as entertainment. Of course, there were rocky patches, creative disagreements, divorces, the heartbreak of losing bandmates, the close of the 1960s dream, but Micky's story brims with enough high points and comedic escapades to overshadow the stumbles. If one were to trace an invisible thread from Circus Boy to the Monkees, from the frantic mania of the late 60s to the more mellow times of fatherhood, from heartbreak to new love, from adolescent acoustic strumming to rock drumming, one sees a tapestry defined by willingness to explore. It's telling that after forging a path in architecture, he answered the call to audition for a show about a fictional band, only to find that it was no ordinary show. It was the kind of show that would reconfigure how music and TV intersect, spawning real tours, real singles, and real fans who hung on every comedic twist and vibrant chord. Micky's father, watching from the sidelines, must have been proud. His son, who once toddled around Hollywood sets, had become more than just another actor. He became a cultural figure. And so the life of George Michael Micky Dolenz Jr. unfolds as both a star's trajectory and a distinctly human journey. He's lived in a swirl of guitars and cameras, harnessing the comedic spark that began in his earliest days in front of a lens. He's known heartbreak, but also found lasting relationships. He's shifted from playing a guitar to pounding the drums, from studying architecture to grappling with near-instant stardom. He's carried forward the memory of an era that defined youth culture, all while refusing to be trapped in one role or decade. Even now, with the big top lights of Circus Boy long gone and the Monkees' wacky comedic episodes relegated to classic TV stations, his presence remains vital, like the continuing beat of a beloved pop tune. The albums keep spinning, and every time you hear that joyously charged voice on I'm a Believer or Last Train to Clarksville, you sense that you're hearing more than just a pop track from half a century ago. You're tuning into a life story, the optimism of childhood stardom, the whimsy of comedic antics, the unstoppable curiosity of a musician in search of new sounds. Even as decades pass and tastes shift, Micky Dolenz stands as a cultural anchor, ensuring that the best parts of 1960s music and TV remain something we can revisit with a smile. He's traveled a very long road indeed, from the child who carried water buckets for circus animals to the man who banged a drum kit in front of millions, from the teen who dabbled in high school dramas to the father overseeing a growing brood of daughters, from heartbreak to healing, from novelty to respect. Through it all, he's shown us what it means to keep reinventing, to stay open to the next audition, the next show, or the next chord progression. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. And, as any Monkees fan might add with a nostalgic chuckle, we're all believers at heart.